Adventures of Tintin, I found one. In fact, it was one. It was quite many. So, if you look, like the Europeans have all, means even in today's movie, if you are watching a Hollywood movie, if you have seen it, like if we have seen it correctly, like we have observed, you will see that when the America is or New York City is portrayed in the film, it's presented in a blue scale, and India in an orange scale, India, Africa in yellow scale. And in Adventures of Tintin, they have the West says that India is a land of snake charmers and elephants. There has been in one part, I guess I can't exactly recall what which animal like there's a captain got like he had a clash with and he fell down like cow or something, one sort of animal. Like the way they portray India is that India is the land of temples and all. That's what they have put. That's it has been shown in Adventures of Tintin. That fact that India has also progressed in the fields of science and technology, that part mostly omitted, and and they just show a very small portion of it, or rather, they don't show it at all. No, sir. Yes, sir. No, sir. Sir, sir, it's available in YouTube. Okay, sir. I will try to find it, and if I can't, then I will text you personally. Okay, sir. Okay.
So the Brazil style believe of hats. The Brazil style. So the use of hats. They used to wear the hats. I noticed that. Yes, sir. Sir, the police officers.
Can you hear me now? Yes, sir. As I was talking about the wearing, how they used to dress up, and the movie that I saw, the Unicorn, sir, the way they used to fight, the use of the ship, the Sir Francis ship used to fight with the pirates. S- So they are the, I think, post-colonial things. So, because now the inventions are developed, so there are different types of inventions of fighting and war. So, but earlier they used to fight with the ships and all, the swords. Yes, sir. So both. Has the Sir Francis Haddock, used to wear a pirate dress code, and the police officers used to wear the modern, the hat and the suits, and with a stick. So they used to kind of reflect the European style of there.
the the way it has been depicted, the dresses are also colonial because they show how people were dressing in Belgium or in England. Well, yes, that can also be a point. I mean, it's a period. You can say that it's a period drama because the period that is being shown can be the period of the colonial affirmation or the colonial time, because Herge, who is the author of Tintin, Herge, who is the author of the Adventures of Tintin, was writing during, or he lived during the 1960s. Um, but by 1960s, most of the colonies acquired by the European imperialists, European colonialists, free, were free from the uh, colonial domination. Anyway, okay. Anything else, Jasmine, that you found reminds you of the colonial aspects?
question. Right now, I can't think of any, sir.
Okay, all right. So let us first try to understand what this post colonial or this colonial thing really is. So I'm sure by the third semester of your masters, you have already come across these theories, right? These theories like post colonialism, feminism, Marxism. You have learnt about these theories, right? Or you can tell me that no, you have not, mm, you are not familiar with the post colonial theory and all that.
So we are familiar.
Okay, great. So, since you're familiar with the post colonial theories or the post colonial uh, texts and whatever means colonial or pro colonial or colonial, so I'll just rejig your memory. Post colonialism is a theory that talks about as to how the colonial nations, most of them from Europe, had tried to or had controlled a large part of Asia, Africa, and Latin America from the late 1700s till the middle of the 20th century, that is the 1900s. And whatever economic, social, cultural, linguistic impacts this long period of colonial domination left on Asia and Africa and Latin America. Okay, so this is what post-colonialism basically is in a most rudimentary way. This is what post-colonialism studies, and a post-colonial text would be a text usually generated from these three continents, which were once dominated, large parts of which were dominated by the Europe, and they show the impact. They show how the colonialists were racists and what kind of discriminations were practiced and what was the impact of those kinds of discriminations. And when we are saying that we have to elicit, when we are saying that we have to discuss the post colonial themes present in The Secret of the Unicorn, we will be pointing at places where Herge has pointed out, or Herge has included certain aspects, certain themes, certain ways of representation, which smacks of, which reminds us of how the colonialists were once um, demeaning, depreciating, or identifying, stereotyping the colonies. Okay, so for example, um, mm, in this movie, Secret of the Unicorn, when Tintin and Haddock and Snowy are in the palace of this place called Bagar or Begar, whatever, however they pronounce it, which itself can be understood as a cheeky way of calling an Arabian country beggar. But anyway, so, or bugger, maybe more insultingly. So there, what's her name? The singer who sings and the glass shatters, Fiona something. Castafiore, Fiona Castafiore. She is the singer who sings, and the glass shatters, and the villains, the antagonist's eagle, takes the scroll away from the ship, and Fiona says that this is her first time in a third world country. So, to call a nation third world is now considered to be offensive, though we ourselves might call ourselves third world. I mean, we can call ourselves third world, but to make a white person, to make a white character in a animated movie, call a nation, an Arab nation, third world, is insulting, and it is pro-colonial or colonial in nature. However, we need to remember this, that when Hersh was writing this character, when Hersh was writing this story, writers, artists, creators were not very sensitive, because they had not been sensitized to use language in such a way that they do not sound racist, they do not sound colonial. In 1960s, post-colonialism had just begun, and the theory had not percolated deep inside the comic book industry of from which Hersh belongs. So we can, when we write that, when Fiona is made to call an Arab country a third world nation, which is insulting, we should also remember, we should also mention this, that Hersh was not sensitized against using a term belonging to the colonial era, third world, and hence he could be pardoned. However, there is more to it. Even if the creator who was writing like some 80 years ago, some 60 years, 62 years ago, can write, may write something that he does not find offensive at that point in time, but Spielberg must be sensitive enough, should have been sensitive enough to edit that particular sentence, to edit that particular term for a Arab nation. Moreover, the term bagar, when they land up in that country, to call that nation to have this pun on beggar is also insulting, as far as my understanding goes. Okay, so that's one way in which the colonial theme is expressed in this particular animated movie. Also, the adventure they have in that Arab country um, is also of interest from a post colonial perspective. A post colonial critic might bring into relief the fact that the entire army of that country could not stop Tintin and Haddock. Though the army was after Tintin and Haddock, they have been presented as fools. They have been presented as inept. They have been presented as lazy. They have been presented as non-dexterous people who could not catch even a reporter and a sailor and their dog. Whereas if we compare these two situations of investigation and capture and police activity, military activity, the pickpocket was later arrested. The pickpocket was later cornered by even the bumbling fools that Thompson and Thompson are. So, is there or could there be, or I don't know if I'm reading it right, we can discuss this, that is this is this something deliberate? Does this parallelism show this parallelism between the bumbling fools Thompson and Thompson, the police office? They are police officers, they are from the detective department, and that's why they do not wear the usual uniform of the police. They capture a pickpocket, a master thief, yet the entire army of Bagar could not contain, could not capture, could not stop Tintin and Haddock. Or, for that matter, what's his name? Racken, the antagonist's name. The antagonist is gets away with his crime. Also, thinking more deeply, Fiona Cast, or I don't know what, I remember Castafiore, but is her name Fiona? I think it is. When she sings, she's from the Western world, and her art, her singing, which could be a form of ballet, um, shatters the glass, which is supposed to be bulletproof, shatters the glass uh, of a protected artifact. What does that tell you about, or is there anything post-colonial in this particular event that happened, Shayan? Would you read anything colonial, post-colonial in this event that Fiona shatters the glass, a protected artifact in the palace of an Arab nation?
So it can be decipher that in this way that like they are looking down on Arabian technologies
Mm-hmm.
uh, because if it's a bulletproof glass, it's
Uh-huh.
meant to be very strong and like agile. And but here, since it's being shattered, the Europeans have always like looked down upon the other nations, especially the Asians and the Africans. I decipher it this way, sir.
Yes, absolutely right. Shattering a glass, shattering a protected artifact, shattering something that is protected, that is something that is valued, so much valued that it has been kept in a bulletproof glass, is first shattered by um, Fiona, who is a foreign singer. She herself says that she has visited the third world nation for the first time. Secondly, the eagle, the pet eagle of um, this antagonist, takes away the scroll. Eagle is the national bird of America, the bald eagle, and Steven Spielberg is American. Was this a conscious choice of animal metaphor? Was this a conscious choice of this animal being able to steal the scroll from an Arab nation? Um, if it is not, then it is coincidental. But I must also inform, if you, I mean, I'm sure that you also know about this, but there was this mission, there was this military activity against Iraq in the Gulf War, as far as I recall. I could be wrong, which was known as the Operation Desert Storm, Operation, or yeah, something like that, Desert Eagle, or no, something like that. So America being represented by the eagle, though this eagle might not be the bald eagle that I'm talking about. I mean, it's not like this eagle has hair on his head, but this is not a bald eagle. Like, a bald eagle is a different um, species of eagle. This is more like an Indian eagle. Anyway, so the eagle represented this symbolizes the American military prowess, American sharpness, American punctuality, which can take away even the most jealously guarded artifacts of the Arab nation. And in an extension of the metaphor, we know that American and European museums, British museums especially, American museum more specifically, are studded with artifacts stolen from the erstwhile colonial nations. Okay, so this is also something that is, I think, very much colonial in nature, because I'm not saying that this is all very planned, this is all very consciously done by the director and producer and the writers, but we can read these significances within or in the animation, from and this is what we do in literature also, right? I mean, we know the story, we know what is happening, we know the plot and stuff like that, but we extend, we enhance the meaning of that particular text by applying these so-called theories, which I am doing right now. Let me know if this makes sense to you. Let me know if you think that I am not overdoing this application of theory on the text. Okay, I mean, do you agree that this, I mean, we could see the text in this light? What do you think? Jasmine, you can.
Yes, sir, we could.
Okay, so let's move on to next issue, next event that I think uh, can bring out another colonial or post-colonial theme. Um, these search, this rush, this activity of treasure hunting. This is classical Western, I would say, colonial uh, adventure theme. And as far as I understand, colonialism. Just give me a minute. There's a call coming, and I need to pick it up. Sorry. Okay, sorry for the interruption. I was what was I saying? Yeah, okay. So this treasure hunt, this hunt for the treasure, this is classic colonial adventure story, and these stories involve seafaring, as Jasmine pointed out. These stories involve flights, which is there in The Secret of the Unicorn, Tintin, Haddock, they fly. Um, then there is desert, they walk round and round in the desert until they are dehydrated, and then they are rescued by the locals, which itself again is interesting because, and I don't know if this is conscious or unconscious, that it were the locals who ultimately, it were the brown third world nationals who ultimately rescued the dehydrated Tintin and Haddock. Had they not, they could have been dead in the desert. Okay, so is it a nod to the usual hospitality that the African, Asian, I don't know if about Latin American nations show to the foreigners, which could be no a point against the pro-colonial perspective of the movie. We can say that it's not all pro-colonial, it's not all singing the praise of the European um, ingenuity, but there is also an aspect of African hospitality mentioned in the movie, which again is stereotypical because, as Shayan pointed out, that the Westerners always looked down upon the technological aspects of these third world, so-called third world nations. So, are they stereotyping Africans to be typically hospitable, like this is in their nature and this is how they behave, and is this their USP? USP, by the way, is unique sales proposal. Like every nation, every culture has some kind of a uniqueness to their identity, and often Asia and India particularly is represented as a nation which is hospitable, which likes, which makes people feel at home. Okay, so as I was saying, that this treasure hunt, this activity around the treasure, is pro-colonial or colonial because these things were very common in the colonial era, and the treasure is a metaphor for the control over the economic aspects of a indigenous nation. We all know that it was not for tourism that the Britishers had captured India, or the Europeans, other European nations had captured the various parts of Latin America and Africa, but it was only for money. And this treasure is bringing money for these people. So, in a kind of a distant metaphor, in a kind of an extended metaphor, I think this treasure hunt, this quest for treasure, is an aspect of the colonial tendency of finding economic hotspots from which they can draw the connectivity of their financial well-being. Uh, so that is these are the few things that I would suggest to you to write about when and if the question of the colonial themes comes up in your question paper. Besides, I would also look at, yes, I would
Sir, can
also,
you,
yes.
sir, sorry to interrupt you, sir. If you can kindly repeat the question which you are asked us to write about, please.
Yeah, so the question might come in this form: elicit the post colonial themes in The Secret of the Unicorn. And I have activated the captions. Can you read the captions also?
Yes.
Okay, and I am recording this particular session, and I will share the link with you so that you can come back to this recording and listen, and you can also see the captions. I was late to activate the captions. I should have done it earlier for you, so that you could read also, and maybe, who knows, you can create an answer out of it by using the captions. And so um, I was talking about the language. Um, as far as I remember, because it's not, I mean, I recently watched the movie again so that I could have a discussion with you guys. As far as I remember, the people in the Arab nation, they were speaking in English, but they were speaking in a kind of an accented English. This accented English is again another uh, point, another aspect of the post colonial feature of this particular movie. However, as there is a point against considering the movie to be too colonial, I think we are reading too much into the adventures that Tintin and Haddock had in the Arab nation. However, within that short span of time, most of the adventure actually took place They were like riding a motorbike, and Tintin jumped from a window to catch the flying kite, the flying kite, I mean the eagle. And then they were running in a car, um, and so many things happened within a short span of time. There was a rapid activity within this Arab space, within this so-called erstwhile colonial space of the third world nation. Okay, so if you talk about these points, if you elaborate and use examples, you can use a few citations of some scholars where, say for example, uh, you can use Edward Said and his book Orientalism, uh, 1976, I guess, or 1978. I'm a little confused between 76 and 78. Anyway, I mean, you can go for the introductory part of the book, and you can find a uh, number of supportive statements of what we have been speaking about: stereotyping, calling a nation third world. Okay, so that will, I think, that will be good enough for an answer of 10 marks. I think I think you have like a question, broad questions of 10 marks, and you can create an answer on it. Okay, you can write that answer and you can show it to me. I can try to make, if any necessary, if necessary at all, any changes, additions, improvements to whatever you have written. But since I
So the
am, yes,
so the post-colonial themes on secrets of the unicorn. That question you're asking us to write and show to you.
yes, if you want
Okay,
to,
sir.
if you want to,
Okay, sir.
I mean, since this is a probable question in your in your term and exam, so I want you to practice. Okay. The next thing that I would like to talk about, though there is a shortage of time today, and but I think I can do justice to the next topic that I wish to talk about. That is the plot construction of the Secret of the Unicorn. Now, the basic point, I'll come right to the point. The basic point that I want to talk about in plot construction of this particular movie, this particular animation, is that um, there are a number of chances and coincidences, and when the number of chances and coincidences in a plot construction is too many, one too many, then the plot becomes loose. I mean, you cannot hinge your plot on um, chances and coincidences alone. And what are these chances and coincidences? The fact that Tintin buys that relic, that buys that unicorn model just before two other people comes for the same, I think is very coincidental. I think it's very accidental that Tintin buys that. I don't know if you will agree with me or not, and this is what starts the entire thing. If Tintin had not bought that model, then this ruckus would not have had happened with Tintin. But of course, we can have a willing suspension of disbelief that this can happen with anyone. It's a chance, it's a coincidence that I, unfortunately for you, it is me who is discussing some topics, some very topics of some very interesting texts with you in a very boring manner. But, well, that's how things happen, that's how things start. So we can give a little leeway to Spielberg for his plot construction, that he chances it on he chances it on a coincidence, an accident. But interestingly and importantly, the plot construction mentioned in the comic book, the plot twists mentioned in the comic book is exactly followed in the movie. So this will come in handy with the first question, the first topic that we discussed earlier on the first class, that we are that what was lost when the movie was adapted from the comic books. Okay. um, However, if you read the comic book, The Secret of the Unicorn, which is actually in two parts, and if you watch the movie, then you would find that in the comic book, Tintin and Haddock knew each other since a long time. But Tintin and Haddock are introduced to each other in the movie. I found that a little surprising. And though they had similar interests, Haddock's ship was taken away from him there by a mutiny, and Tintin wanted to find the truth about the secret of the unicorn, and he wanted to follow the treasure trail. It was also coincidental, it was also an accident that Sir Francis Haddock was the ancestor of Captain Haddock. And only the blood of Captain Haddock, or the blood of an Haddock, or a Haddock, would actually reveal the treasure, which is all very cheesy, I would say, which is all very depending upon chance, depending upon coincidences. Okay. What else? What else could we call the holes in the plot? Um, the fact that the glass shatters, a bulletproof glass would shatter under the duress of a shrill song. I don't know if that could happen. And just to remind you that this caption is not always correct, because instead of shrill they took Israel song. So there could be a few mistakes like that. Anyway, so then other things, other twists in the plot comes when the thief picks the pocket of Tintin. Tintin does not have the scroll anymore, and the two detectives followed Tintin and Haddock in their adventures because they belong to the character frame, the character repertoire of Tintin. They follow him right to the Arab country, and they wear Arab dresses over their hats and their suits, which, as Jasmine was pointing out, was very awkward, and perhaps it shows that they were falsely, or they were clumsily trying to put on the Arab identity on their otherwise European selves. Anyway, ultimately, when Rakan and Haddock has a face-off in the shipyard where they were fighting with cranes, is climactic, but I think I did not see it in the comic book, because maybe I did not read the second part of the comic book, because, as I said, that Secret of the Unicorn has two parts, whereas this movie is done in only one. I find it a little exaggerated. I find it a little too much, which is not a fault with the plot as much as it is a fault with how Spielberg was going to, or the writer of this particular story, which was adapted from the comic books, was going to make it more sensational, make it more interesting. What is interesting in this is that they were fighting with uh, two machines that were more like that were Western machines, Western giant machines on a dockyard, and ultimately Rakan is captured. However, there is an aspect, there is a device of parallelism whereby Haddock is trying to fight exactly as Sir Francis Haddock had fought with his nemesis. Mano a mano, like two men against each other, but this time not using swords and bayonets, but using cranes. And this act of parallelism, this device of parallelism, I think is pretty um, cool, I would say, pretty interesting, I would say. So this is a part of the plot construction. Um, can you tell me, like, Jasmine needs to answer this. Jasmine, can you tell me uh, which part did you find, did you could you point out as to be the climax of this movie? I mean, all movies, all plots have climaxes. What is the climax of this movie?
Sir, so in the movie, I only saw the first part, as when they caught the burglar, pickpocket.
Okay.
So up till there, so I saw, sir.
Oh, okay, all right. So
Uh, so the
yeah,
second part we couldn't find actually.
the second part. The movie does not have a second part.
Sir, actually, sir, Abhishek sent me the link, and the link was up to there only. So I thought maybe there was a second part of the movie, or
Which burglar was caught? Like, did you see the crane fighting? Like the machine
no,
crane?
sir. Sir, I saw up till sir when the detectives caught the
Oh, the
burglar.
pickpocket.
Yes, sir.
Okay, no, 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 no. I mean, I don't know what link you saw. I mean,
Sir,
that's why
can you
I.
kindly send the link if you have?
Yeah, sure, I'll do that. I'll send the link in your WhatsApp group because I think you are watching the animated shorts that was once aired some, I don't know, 15, 17 years ago. And the movie that I'm talking about was released in 2011, that directed by Steven Spielberg, which won, I think, one or two Oscars also. Anyway, so if we watch the movie, I think, I mean, as far as the movie is concerned, as far as the action is concerned, because we should also talk about this text as a movie, not as not as a literary text. But I think when you will watch the movie, you might understand this, that when Tintin leaps out of the window and catches the claws, snatches the scroll from the claws of the eagle, I think that is the apex point of this adventure. I mean, nothing could beat this bravery, this daredevilry of Tintin. This is what I think, that this is the point where we go wow, which is kind of a climactic um point, a point of climax in the movie. Not because it was the end of the movie, not because it was when something is revealed, not because it's a very emotional point, but because it is the point when the action reaches its height. I mean, nothing could be more um, fun, nothing could be more adventurous than a person leaping out of a window, catching a flying uh, eagle and snatching a scroll out of the eagle's hand. Okay, though as a climax you should know that ultimately the treasure, the little part of treasure that Francis Haddock could salvage from the sinking ship after he blew it was a hatful of gold coins, which actually leads to another adventure. And the plot of a comic book points usually to another following adventure, which is followed very religiously by Steven Spielberg, though the next adventure has not yet created, but it leads it is pointed sorry that something else will follow this particular adventure. Okay, so that is also about the plot construction of the movie and talking about the climax and stuff like that. I think I would put an end to the class today, and if you have any questions, I would try to answer them for you.
Sir,
Yes.
sir, for film and literature, we also have Batman, director Tim Burton.
Yes.
Okay, sir. So you
Yes.
haven't yet discussed Batman, right, sir?
No, not yet, because I am doing this one first and then I will go to Batman.
Okay, sir.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
So, yeah, you may leave the meeting today, and that is all for today. Thank you.